You didn't, Pat, pick it up.
It's 2 minutes after 1. We have all members present except Dave.
George, Jeff, I did email it out yesterday.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
I saw the minutes or the
Yeah,
agenda.
it should be next.
I didn't see anything else, though.
So, we call the meeting to order. And the first thing, accept the minutes of the last meeting. Has everyone read them?
So,
Second. All in favor?
aye.
So finalize the next year's expense budget recommendation. This is based on our visit that are in on the select board's impression of the budget that we sent them, and the only the suggestion that they made that we're here to see if we agree with is to create 2 reserve funds funded by our undesignated fund balance, that and the money will replace that is not going to be spent this year because on the legal front, we haven't been able to get a judge yet to handle our cases. And so understanding that at least the full amount isn't going to be used this year because we haven't gotten a judge to start yet. The $30,000 of what was available to pay for our legal fees this year is not, well, but that would go into undesignated at the end of the year, and we will sort of hold on to it for next year by putting it into a reserve this year. Did I get that right?
So at town meeting, there's going to be 4 warrant articles. There would be an article to vote to establish a legal services reserve fund. And then there would be a second article to fund that legal services reserve fund from the undesignated fund in the amount of $35,000.
Is it 35 or 30?
35.
35.
I had legal 30. Maybe I didn't. Anyway.
And then the other 2 articles would be similar for the health.
Yep, so then there's a article to establish an employee health benefits reserve fund. And then there's a second article to fund that reserve from the undesignated in the amount of $25,000.
Discussion?
Yeah.
When we started the committee process this year, I looked at the numbers and it was a projected $349,000 increase in revenue. Going into the select board, we had an increase in taxation of 85,000.
So you missed last meeting. It was 56,000.
Okay, so now we're proposing a balanced budget. I was gonna say through smoke and mirrors, but that's too controversial. I will say that this does not reflect a reduction in expenses by the town. it reflects creative accounting. When I first saw the projected expenses or the budgeted expenses, I came up with $280,000 in potential cuts or sources of new revenue to coincide with the 349,000 increase in revenue, leading to about a $500,000 cut in the bite that the taxpayers have to take. Since then, I tempered that to about 200,000 by selling the backhoe because we bought a new excavator. Cutting back on the $1 million that we're going to spend on the roads, which seem to me to be passable. Cutting back the HCO and harbor master, cutting back the public works by 50,000, which came off one of the latest winters in record, followed by another light winter. One could expect with the global warming and climate change that will continue. Understanding that we're taking on additional responsibilities on the post road. I was pleased to find out that the recycling has got their transfer station license, which I would think we should budget for an increase in revenue there. I saw a real discomfort with the recreation department projected increase, and I voiced that same opinion here. So I've changed my mind on the fire chief going from part-time to full-time. However, everybody has a budget. People with a big budget buy new cars. People with a smaller budget buy used cars. I think the town would be better served by borrowing something less than $750,000 to buy a used, buy or lease a used fire truck to make the new borrowing less. By creating these reserve accounts, we continue to chip away at the undesignated fund balance, which if we borrow the $1,750,000 and fix the roads at a high level and buy a brand new fire truck, will be leveraged $8,150,000 versus a undesignated fund, something north of only $1 million. I think that is that debt to worth ratio is out of whack, and one last thing. I have been a manager in the military. I've been a manager in the private sector. And one of the pains in the neck of being a manager is dealing with turnover, dealing with human resources issues, and it just comes with the program, comes with the job. I voiced that we have increased our salaries and across the board of about 100% over the last 5 years, which is 20% increase per year. I doubt that we could find any other town in the state of Maine that increased their wages by 100% in the last 5 years.
So what we're here for today is not to redo the whole budget. that the select board has indicated that they're happy with the budget that they are looking at, except for these two items. What we're here today is to see if we agree with their request for two reserve articles, fund them in the fashion that they suggested. We're not a decision, we're an advisory committee, we're going with what we're trying to see if we will agree with what they accepted or indicated they were going to accept on Tuesday. So
Okay,
these other items we can certainly discuss, but the reason that we're here are for these two. So that's the reason we're here is for.
okay, all right, can I respond?
Sure.
I think that was a politically expedient proposal that the select board came up with. And if the committee wants to do that, and thinks that was the best financial advice that we can give them to make that political decision to balance the budget, fine. I just want to go on record as voting no, because of all the things that I just said.
So can we proceed?
And I understand that I'm only the one vote, and there's nothing I can do about that.
Does the committee agree that we are here to see whether we say two reserve funds should be set up and funded in the fashion that was asked for by the select board?
I thought I heard a motion that was seconded to deal with those items, and so.
Do I hear a second?
Yes.
All in favor of continuing setting up these two reserves and funding them, whether we yes or no, let's certainly proceed and do the things we call for.
Well, excuse me, George. So it isn't, the setting up actually takes place at the town meeting, right?
Yes,
So the authorization, but we're enabling with this vote to recommend to the select board that these two, if this is a way forward for us.
yes,
Okay, got it. Thanks.
So you'd be recommending the establishment of the two reserve funds as well as the funding of them from the undesignated fund balance. I have 35 for legal and 25 for health.
did we get to proceed? on these?
Well, I think I might have missed the exact motion, so I just want to be.
Yeah, I thought I
clear.
missed it too.
So are you making a motion that the committee recommends the establishment of
That we-
these two reserves? Or just that you're talking about?
That's what we're going to do first.
Oh,
If we do anything else, we can authorize ourselves to do anything else. But I thought. Well,
It seems to me this is the business of this meeting, was to approve the recommendation to the select board that.
Or disapprove.
Or disapprove, exactly, yes.
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
I asked about one of the agenda items that we were not privy to, which was to change the tip to pour a boatload of money into the town hall. I think that that's a financial item, a significant financial item that should be discussed at this meeting rather than just push through
so can we have a
This
vote on
meeting
that
today?
after?
It was on the agenda of the board meeting the other night.
It's not money that we raise from taxation.
Yes, it is. CMP is a taxpayer.
Can we continue? Does the board and the majority agree to examine these, the four items that we were came here to do? And we can afterwards talk about other things if we wish.
Sure.
Yes.
I,
So would
Uh,
we-
You agreed to talk about it, now you're gonna make.
Now we're gonna-
Demolitions.
So
To be clear that you were just getting every, so,
I'm asking Gene to wait on whatever he wants to bring up until we're done with this, if we have. In the second,
Sure, as long as I have a chance to discuss it.
as long as the committee wishes to hear the discussion.
I've been put in my place, George, thank you.
So, on the legal expense, reserve, does the committee think that's a sensible thing to put before the town?
I would like to say, I think that it's a very prudent move on our part. Those are two areas that we have been blindsided by, that were exposed to extra expense, depending on circumstances frequently outside of our control. And to have a reserve to cover that without having to go to extraordinary lengths, I think is prudent. And that it's going to be covered from, or proposing it will be covered from the undesignated funds is taking unspent money from this year, that's where it goes, into the undesignated fund, and using that to fund it. So it's not in the past, we've used undesignated funds as tax relief because we couldn't balance the budget with revenue. So we took it out of that, but I think that it's a wise use of that money. And I think at our last meeting, there were references made to an impression in town that were people are building up slush funds and have little pots of money to play with at the end of the year if they're careful with it. And I think this would be a demonstration that that's not the case, that we're taking unspent tax money and putting it in something that's actually designated for a purpose. And that purpose, like I say, it's kind of a financial wild card. We don't know what legal situations we're going to be in the coming year. And nor do we know how stable the employment situation is going to be for the town. Those are out of our control. So, yeah, I've got no point in my repeating myself. I think
No,
it's
that's,
prudent.
I agree.
John, what are your thoughts?
no, I think that it's a very good idea to set up these reserve accounts. Again, we have typically over budgeted for the health insurance. And so if we use a portion of it to as a reserve, then next year we may not have to have as much of an expense shown. And it would reduce the future taxes. And legal is such it's a strange animal. You don't know what's going to happen with it. And in the past, our legal expenses have varied greatly from year to year. Now we have a couple of situations where probably we're going to be spending a fair amount of money. And to have a reserve account to handle at least a portion of that is prudent.
And are you, um, on these reserve accounts and the funding, you're dubious?
I vote no.
So on so if the proposal to have two reserve accounts funded as we've discussed, would someone like to propose that and we'll have a vote on it?
Well, do you want me to make a motion?
Yes,
I'm so moved.
Second,
yeah, all in favor?
I,
All opposed?
Nay. Good job, George.
Okay, so with, oh, I wrote that wrong again. With that, so with the establishment of, well, the recommendation of establishing those reserves, I've given a reduced budget. So I reduced the legal line item to 50 and I reduced the public works line item by just over 26,000. So I do need new motions for the approvals of the administration budget and the public works budgets, because those two budgets have been reduced for their legal and for legal and administration and for health benefits in public works. So the new proposed department budget for administration is $810,867. And then the new proposed budget for public works is $883,528, which gives us a net municipal budget of $0.
Net increase or net difference from.
A net difference.
You're looking for,
Yeah,
I'll make that motion.
Would you like, would you like to vote them together? Is that a-
yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
yes,
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
I,
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay. So the adjusted administration and public works budgets are approved. And they have been reduced with the reflection of creating those reserve accounts.
So,
That's what I needed from the committee for today. So then whatever else you want.
other business. And I'm moving to, your thoughts, the committee meeting. Does the committee want to deal with, items that we've already decided? I don't think so. But Gene has brought up some points and, what does the committee want to, one of his points is, do we really want to go into an additional $1,750,000 to fix roads that are accessible even in mud season and buy a brand new fire truck And you will do the job and save 500. So one interesting thing is that 1,000,005 is what the town passed last year at town meeting. We don't have that on our budget this year. Do we want to discuss last year's town meeting? We have no authority over that. Even the select board has no authority over that. The townspeople have authority. The townspeople approved that last year, that those funds have been, the contract has been signed for that work.
For the million?
Is that correct?
For the road work, yes. So we're out to bid on the bond currently. We're expecting to close on the bond in May, and the road work should be taking place, we're thinking the end of June, July.
So I myself don't see, if we're going to have a discussion like that, I would think
I don't want to discuss that, George.
it would be at the beginning of the next year's budget where we should come up with a philosophy of what do we want to do with roads and things. I don't think it makes sense to come up with it at the end of the process, talking about a year ago town meeting.
Okay, did the town approve the 750 for the fire truck?
The town has got
Okay,
these, and there was never a motion for that. The motion that we passed last week, which the town seemed to agree with, is up to.
and I saw that and I'm thankful for that.
So the 700 that they've come up with, or a lease amount of 300, if that's what turns up, are all permitted by that agreement.
Okay. I would really like to discuss the line item on the select board's agenda regarding changing the TIP, which is a financial agreement with the town and CMP and labor.
So the CMP, so we have a CMP waterfront TIF that was originally approved in 2014.
Yeah,
It was amended last year to revise some of the projects and to extend the timeline. And then there's been some additional changes in the TIF laws. So this Community Development Advisory Committee has been reviewing that, and they're proposing amending the TIF to adjust the development program on what funds can be spent on. Some of that includes town hall, some of it includes renovation or new municipal building, and some of it includes the yellow building at the waterfront. So TIF funds can be used for redevelopment for commercial purposes. So that's the town hall and the yellow building. And then the recent change in TIF law allows you to do up to 50% of the cost of municipal office renovation or new construction with TIF funds. So a couple of years ago, we were looking at renovating this building. We didn't actually get any bids on the building. But with the change in TIF, we would be able to pay up to a certain amount of that cost with the TIF and wouldn't need to bond with it. So those are I think the three main projects that they've added to the development program for the TIF.
what is the commercial or the projected commercial use of the town hall?
So the town hall has the biggest use for it in the past, and would like to see that picked up, is like the pop-up sales, the sales for the artisans and the vendors, farmers markets, plays, shows, art shows. So bringing people in. One of the changes in TIF 2 is really to promote art districts and art development. So that's something that comes into play now with the town hall. Because it can be a facility for showcasing those things, having productions. The Guild of Artisans always set up. That's something that people would like to see more often. I know the Art Center at one point did a pop-up store and the setup, because now you can actually do more permanent pop-up stores like they do at the rest areas on the highways where you have displays and you can scan and it brings you to people. So it's a way to promote local goods and local businesses and for those businesses to get sales.
So it's a-
That's looking at,
It's the town business. Rather than private commercial enterprises.
well, I mean, so we would be renting out the facility for the private businesses to be able to do these things. So like the artisans, when they do a there, the artists, there's 10 artisans there and they're selling their products. So that's,
And they've done that in the Marion Hall last year.
yes, because the town hall was closed. So
They
there's,
pay any rent?
I'll say rent in the town hall has been limited in the past due to the facility. I think that's part of the goal in renovating the town hall is getting it to a place where we are charging rent and what we're charging is going into a reserve for the maintenance of the building, so we don't run into what we are having today.
I think you missed it too. My question is, did the Marion Hall charge them rent?
I don't think so.
And I don't think so either.
I don't,
Nor do they charge the library
Right.
more than $1. So I guess we have something short of $1.4 million in undesignated funds. And that winds up with $1.4 million roughly of undesignated cash. Even though we have $4 or $5 million in the bank, $1.4 million of that is discretionary cash that we can spend. If we create these reserve accounts that pulls that discretionary cash out, if we continue to borrow as projected, our annual debt service in 2029 will be almost $1 million annual mortgage payments, almost equal to our free cash. That is a scary proposition to me. That is living on the edge of your cash flow, and that's what kills entities. They run out of cash and they go bankrupt. Or they go, like I suggested in Richard Russo's book, that they get annexed, they get sold to the nearest municipality who has the cash and no debt. So I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to be a bad guy, but that's how I think. And we're at 600 and something thousand a year in annual debt service, which is a big number. We're going to project to go to 900. Well, then maybe it's $1.4 million after that, and where are we then? We're in bad shape. So that's why I brought it up, and I think it's prudent for this committee to think along those lines. That town hall building is a white elephant. It was a church that the town took ownership of. It's still a church. It's got a steeple at the top of it. We have a perfectly fine building down the street where we can have these things, and we got to put $350,000 in just to keep it from falling down. Then what? Then you got to put another $1 million into renovation so you can charge minimal rents. I just don't see that that's a prudent thing to do with the town's taxpayers' money.
Does anyone else want to? I think that's a discussion for town meeting, not for us. But
I hope to be able to make that discussion, George.
I don't see that is our charge. I don't see that the select board asked us to weigh in on that. I don't. But that's doesn't mean wish to have a conversation with Jean.
Well,
or something.
I would just make this comment. I've been doing a lot of reading of Wokingham history lately, and I'm constantly astonished at how often the town hall was used for many, many different types of public meetings and gatherings. So it could have a purpose again. The second thing I would ask is, I would like to ask some of those vendors how useful they found it to put on events down inside Mary Meeting Hall, because I find that very crowded. And the acoustics are not good. So I would like to just find out, well, does it really work as well as the town hall did, which was a big empty space and vendors could come in and sit up? Okay, so there, I don't see an equality between those two things. And the third thing is, are you saying that if the TIF were amended to allow funds to be used in the rehabilitation of the town hall, you would be against that?
I would, because it will lead to, what the town had already, projected to spend $1.4 million to renovate the building. $350 for the foundation work and then $1 million for all the other things that it needs. In my mind, given our current debt structure, we cannot afford to do that.
And you know that in 2032, that debt structure is going to significantly change because there are many things that are going to be dropping off at that point.
I just mentioned that in 2029, which is 5 years down the road,
Mhm.
the projected debt structure is gonna have almost $1 million in annual payment.
So if I could, I think that's changing, right? So in that service, one that you're looking at, which is
Is
that.
what you gave me.
Yes, it is. But in that, it includes when we didn't know about, it had things such as a plow truck, which we know now we're looking at doing money to a reserve truck and selling the truck to get a used truck. So that's coming off. We know now that if the CMP TIF happens for town hall, then we're not going to be requesting to borrow from town hall. So that comes off. The recycling facility, there isn't a plan for anything in terms of that right now. So when I did this, I was very concerned, as you are, Jean, of the debt service. So I wanted to get an idea of what are we looking at that we can't save for, that we might be having to take debt for, because our debt is high, right? And I think that's been the big push in creating, not just funding the reserves, because if you don't have money in a reserve to buy something, your option is borrowing, which is why the town has the debt service it has. So like the EMS service, that was on. Well, now we're in a good position with our EMS service, so that's moving down. So I was looking at like, okay, well, these are the things, this is our equipment, this is our replacement schedule, this is what we know is happening. These are things, and then as we're learning more and we get closer, we know things are moving and changing. For example, this proposed fire truck, I had on here an $80,000 payment. Right now, we're looking at 65 with interest rates, depending on how we do. So our debt service for next year, I think it's high. It's proposed at 700,000. The following year, if the town approves the fire truck, I think we're going to be looking at, we have something coming off. So I think we're going to be looking at 750,000. I don't see any borrowing that this town is going to be looking at for a few years if we can keep up with our funding our reserves, because we should be able to make that switch to reserves. I think when you're looking at other towns, I'll be honest, I'm jealous. The reason they don't have debt is because they have been using their reserves. Richmond just bought a $400,000+ pumper truck, fire truck, from reserves. We don't have
Could I respond?
that in that.
Could I respond?
Yeah, so I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think we're making steps and yes, this is what this shows, but it's looking as we take more steps, things are looking better.
Then I would respectfully request that perhaps an adjustment and a new debt service form be completed. And the other thing, Nicole, if you don't borrow, but you use cash from the reserves, you end up not increasing debt, but decreasing the net worth and decreasing the cash position. If you're gonna use CMP's money to fix the foundation, that comes out of the checkbook. And if we continue to do that, as well as borrow new money, the debt to worth is gonna continue to deteriorate to the point where you won't have any net worth, and you'll have a lot of debt, and your cash will go to zero, and then you'll have to go to the bank and ask for a tax anticipation note or a revenue anticipation note. And if they don't say yes, because your balances with them are low, which is what they're in it for. They're not in it to finance a fire truck. They're in it to keep that $4 or $5 million and invest it overnight. If they say no, then what are you gonna do? Then you're screwed. So, and I've been there. I have been there, not with municipalities necessarily, but Detroit went bankrupt. And a lot of, I won't say a lot, but some of the companies that I did business with ran out of cash and they went bankrupt.
And with this said, I would also, your point on the undesignated fund. This town has been keeping its undesignated fund just below the bare minimum. of what
Right,
It says it
right,
was, and
right.
so is it healthy? Is healthy enough? Yes. But if we could allow it to be a little healthier and maybe instead of being just below what 2 months, which is what our policy says, but allowed it to get a little bit ahead of that, then we could be in a position that you have that additional cash, which in your bank account, but also when we do come up with debt or to help pay off debt, then there'd be money in the undesignated to offset debt that we might be looking at to pay off debt early.
By selling the tobacco, you sell the truck for more than you want, and you put the difference in the on some other debt or put it into the unfunded.
I think, but this town has been like, well, we're close to where we need to be, that's good enough. Is it good enough? Okay. It wouldn't hurt us to do more than good enough, because it's going to help the town's financial position. And I think keeping our financial position at a baseline minimum, as we've seen, the town in a way has shot itself in the foot in the past. So if we allowed the undesignated to be a little above policy, it gives the town more flexibility in its cash position and how it wants to address debt, future debt, and so forth. And right now, the town doesn't have that flexibility. But I mean, just the fact that we funded our reserves last year was huge, right? And if we can do it again this year, I think, it's going to help the town in the future. And then we can be like our neighbors that don't have debt and have cash in the bank.
And one of the other questions that I asked them, and I shared that with the select board, they all had 7-figure checking accounts or checking and savings accounts. So they're not scraping by with, 100,000 in the bank. They all have millions of dollars in the bank.
But they
One has zero debt, one owed basically 15,000, and the other one owed 650. So we're now more than 10 times all of our nearest neighbors and, I'll shut up.
No, but I think the point, they have funded reserve accounts. They've used reserve accounts. So they haven't had to go into debt.
Good.
They've raised
Good.
money and the reason they have money in the bank is because they have their reserve accounts that are funded. So I think we are taking those steps now.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we get to the point where year over year, this year, we're gonna add something north of $1 million, depending on whether the fire chief buys new or used. We're gonna be $1 million more than we were last year. If we get to the point where our debt decreases and our unfunded balance increases, I'll
Be a good day.
take you out to dinner.
It'll be a good day.
All right.
No, I think we're on, I think for the most part, everyone's on agreement. It's just turning the corner to get to where we want to be. And I will do an updated, estimated debt schedule because I
Thank you.
think we've been making adjustments, because I don't want to get there.
Okay.
And an updated road schedule at some point.
That might take me a little bit longer. I want to see what happens with this year's road work, but I think there
Yeah.
will be an updated road schedule.
He participated in the Fish Tales, both as a speaker and as a
Did you?
provider of food.
Uh-huh.
And I put up with the plan for it.
The meeting is still in
Oh, did
process. Is there any other,
Our meeting, I'll get it.
anything else that, Jeff, anything you would like to bring up?
No, I think it's gone pretty much the way we expected. I'm sorry, Gene. I'm sorry, Gene. I know what you're saying. But you have to remember, a town is not a business. It is not supposed to make a profit that businesses do. And if we can break even, that's wonderful. And the only way that you break even, get out of the debt cycle, is to establish reserves. I've been on this committee for 10 years. And we've talked about setting up reserves all that time. And the select board adamantly refused to do so. So it's the select board's responsibility for the indebtedness, ultimately. And we have to live with it. We are doing our best to resolve that issue. And I don't think it's not going to happen overnight. It can't. But we are finally in the right direction. So
Sounds like a good place to end the meeting if everyone's in agreement.
Yeah,
Move to adjourn.
Second,
I'd say.
all in favor?
All right.
And if
Good weekend, all.
the finance committee would prefer